Hello, my name is Jennifer Dillon, and thank you for joining me today for this professional development on engaging students through interactive lessons. Our goal as educators is always to make sure that students are engaged in the learning, are held accountable for what they should be learning, and are enjoying the lesson, because that is the true measure of good teaching. Students' engagement is the product of motivation and active learning. It's a product rather than a sum because it will not occur if either element is missing. When students are sitting in your classroom and you're presenting either on your smartboard or through a video or even writing on your white or blackboard, are they always engaged? One way that we can engage students is by using an interactive tool. Today I'm going to show you how to use a program called Nearpod. It'll turn those regular slideshows or PowerPoints into an interactive tool where you can always tell if students are engaging and listening to what you're teaching. Teachers can sign up at nearpod.com. Just type that into Google and this will appear. I use my Google through my school to sign up, but you could also use Office 365 if you have an account for that, or you could sign up if you don't have either one of those. Go ahead and click I am not a robot and that I am over 13 years old. Once you have created your account, you will have something that looks like this. Obviously, I already have some Nearpods created, so it's going to look a little bit different for me. One of the areas that really drew me to Nearpod is that I'm already a Google user, so I have a lot of Google Slides already created in my Google Drive. So I didn't have to create anything new on Nearpod. I could just take one of my previously made Google Slides and I could really make it more interactive. So instead of me just clicking and going through and students just staring at me or taking notes, I could make this lesson more interactive. So let's go ahead and look. Here is a lesson that I have on landforms. It's pretty basic. I took a PDF that I had and I just created a Google slide out of it. So this is talking about landforms. Here's a little bit of pre-knowledge. Here's some text about landforms, more information about landforms. And finally, we have some questions about landforms. So at the end, instead of me having these questions up here for them to go ahead and answer on their own, I could create this in a Nearpod. So let's go ahead and try that. So back in my Nearpod dashboard, I'm just going to click right here where it says Lesson in Google Slides. If you don't have Google Slides, if you've never used them before, you can either learn how to do that or you can actually create them directly in Nearpod by just clicking New, Lesson in Nearpod. But I already have this Google slide, so I'm going to go ahead and click on it. Then it's going to take me to my Google Slide account. The first time I open this, it's going to ask me to create an add-on for Nearpod. So once I get to Nearpod, I'm going to click Add-on, just like it says here, Open, and I'm going to go through the process to create a Nearpod there. So it's very easy to do. I already have mine on here, so you would just click Get Add-on, type in Nearpod, and then you'll be all set to go. So just type in Nearpod right here and you'll find it. So for this lesson in landforms, I can go ahead and click on Add-on. I can go to Nearpod and it will open it in Nearpod. So you will see this lovely bar to the side. And it is going to allow me to do some different interactive pieces with Nearpod. You'll want to go ahead and play around with what Nearpod can do. There are a lot of different pieces. You can add audio. There's some great BBC videos within this Nearpod that you can allow for free. I used a great one for science. I've used them for all different pieces. History, lots of neat parts in there. Collaborative board, a draw it, fill in the blank, creating a video flip grid if you've never done that. Those are amazing. A memory test, open-ended questions is probably what I use the most. Sometimes I do a quiz, and you can go on there several different options. So for this one, I'm just going to do an open-ended question, and I'm going to actually take out this one that I already have, and it just says, what is Old Faithful? What is Old Faithful? And that's going to be my question for the students. I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And now that question has been created. For sake's times, we're going to go ahead and pretend I've done that for other ones. I'm going to click to save it to the Nearpod. and you will now see this Nearpod is being created. So I've already done a few others that I've done with my students. Here's one I did for morning meetings for social emotional, but this is also one I did on data-based questions. When I'm ready to use it, I can choose one of three ways: live participation, live with Zoom, or student paced. Any of these are wonderful ways to do it. I usually do live participation. When we were not in learning, I did live in Zoom, but there's also student paced as well. This means that students are going to be activating it all by themselves and they won't have a teacher around. So let's pretend we're doing live participation. I could have also resumed my lesson if I had gotten partially through. You will then get a link for students that you can either email, send through social ways, link it, Google Classroom. This is so that students can access the presentation and can answer the questions as you go through. So this is what students would see when they are using their piece of technology. And so you as a teacher can see down here how many students have logged in and are participating. You can have a quick view of all the slides in the presentation. And you can also choose to hide students' names or not hide them based on what you're doing. Sometimes when you look at the questions, you don't want students to be able to see who's writing something, so you can make it anonymous. So this is a piece that came from the Nearpod. I love this because it has a little timeline that it has incorporated that the students can go through, and it has different people that were important to the American Revolution. Then I have my first database picture that I'm going to show them. So this is the Join or Die by Benjamin Franklin political cartoon. It was actually published a few times, once during the French and French and Indian War, and then again a second time during the American Revolution, beginning of the American Revolution. So here's the question the students will see, and as they answer this question, what do you think this segmented snake represents? Little sticky notes will start to pop up, and they will get approved by me, and then students will be able to see all the other students' replies. This is great because if you have that reluctant student that isn't really sure, maybe they're in special ed and they just have struggle putting their thoughts together, they have kind of a guide to help them out, and it really encourages students. And so the next is going to be a video that I incorporated, so you can choose to either let all students see and hear, so make sure they have headphones if you want them to hear it. For me, I'm just going to say my device and I can play this video. Okay? And then I'm going to just keep going. So here's another DBQ that I put in. I have another question. I did not add a video for this one. And so Boston Revolution or Boston Tea Party. Here I did a poll. Was it truly a massacre? And they said yes, no, or there's no answer, obviously. So there are many different ways that you can use Nearpod and many different aspects that you can go through. The last part of the Nearpod that I want to show you is the accountability piece. And this really helps you because sometimes when students are engaging and participating in a lesson, we can't sit there and annotate what they wrote or what they said. It's very difficult. And depending on how many students you have, that might be a challenge. The last part is reports that I just clicked. So I can decide on a lesson. So let's go ahead and click on this one that we just talked about. And I'll use this one because it has the most students that were participating in this. And I can see a summary of what happened. So here's just some general information. 73 questions were answered, some were skipped. And it goes through and talks about all my students and how much they participated. I can look at each individual open end and I can see their student exact questions and what they answered and give them points. I can give them feedback later. I can see their draw-its, which not a lot of students really enjoy doing that one because it was a little difficult. But looking at the reports, it really lets me see who knows and who understands the main concepts that I was trying to teach them throughout the lesson. So that's it. Sign up for your Nearpod, have your students be engaged, use your pre-existing Google Slides lesson, or create them directly in Nearpod for more engagement with your students and accountability for all. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a great day and enjoy using Nearpod in the future.